Vault of Chronicles presents The Journey of Myanmar, from British colony to the fight for freedom. For millennia, in the lush valleys and fertile plains of Southeast Asia, a land of winding rivers and rich cultural tapestries thrived. This region, known today as Myanmar, was home to a mosaic of peoples: the Mon, the Pew, and later, the Bamar. The Pew, for instance, built impressive city-states like Sri Kshetra centuries before many European cities existed, showcasing advanced irrigation systems and sophisticated Buddhist architecture. However, Myanmar's history is inextricably linked to its geography. Surrounded by dense forests and mountains, yet with vital access to the Andaman Sea, the region was a crossroads for both cultures and conflicts. The Irrawaddy River served as the nation's lifeblood, uniting diverse peoples, while the mountain borders were battlegrounds for migrations and invasions. History seemed a recurring cycle. A powerful kingdom would rise, unify the land, only to see it fragment and fall to a new power. The story that would shape modern Myanmar began with the British in the 19th century, a power that came not to trade, but to dominate. The Konbaung Kingdom, the last to rule an independent Burma, felt the growing weight of the British presence on its borders. The tension was palpable. The question looming over the land was, how would this proud and ancient nation react to an empire that would forever change its course? The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. At the opulent but fragile royal court in Mandalay, young and inexperienced King Thibaw Min inherited a throne in crisis. By his side, the cunning and ambitious Queen Supayalat was the true power, but her thirst for control was seen as a weakness that exposed the kingdom. Across the borders, British figures like Commodore Alexander Nelson and General Archibald Campbell represented the imperial machine. Campbell, a veteran of the Napoleonic Wars, saw Burma as a strategic prize, a gateway to China, and a source of valuable resources like teak and precious stones. He was methodical and ruthless, convinced of British superiority. The inevitable clash began with the First Anglo-Burmese War in 1824. General Campbell's forces, despite suffering from tropical diseases, inflicted a humiliating defeat on the Konbaung Kingdom. Burma was forced to cede strategic territories, and Rangoon, now Yangon, a vital commercial and religious center, fell under British control. A curious fact: when the British arrived in Rangoon, they were awestruck by the majestic Shwedagon Pagoda, one of Buddhism's most sacred temples. To them, it was not just a holy site, but a symbol of power to be conquered. The Second War in 1852 was even more decisive. The British Empire, already entrenched in India, had superior resources and tactics. Lower Burma, with its fertile lands and valuable ports, was annexed. The Konbaung Kingdom was reduced to a mere shadow of its former self. The final blow came with the Third Anglo-Burmese War in 1885. Using a trivial commercial dispute over teak as a pretext, British forces marched on Mandalay. King Thibaw, on the advice of his ministers, surrendered to avoid a massacre. He and Queen Supayalat were deposed and exiled to India, ending a 130-year dynasty. Burma was now a province of British India, and its people were forced to adapt to a foreign administration, new laws, and an economic system that exploited them. While the British imposed their rule, a new form of resistance began to emerge, not with swords, but with words. A Buddhist monk named Yu Atama became one of the first and most vocal independence activists. He saw Buddhism as the nation's soul, and British rule as a direct threat to that identity. His impassioned speeches on non-cooperation and civil disobedience resonated with the masses. From the halls of academia, a new generation of leaders arose. Aung San, a charismatic law student in Rangoon, quickly became a prominent figure. He and a group of young patriots, later known as the 30 Comrades, sought military aid from Japan, believing armed force was the only way to expel the British. They formed the Burma Independence Army, a force that would, in a dramatic turn of events, later fight alongside the Allies against their former Japanese benefactors during World War II. This era was also marked by deep internal divisions. The British, in a classic divide-and-rule strategy, separated the lowland Bamar majority from the mountainous regions inhabited by ethnic minorities like the Kachin, Chin, Karen, and Shan. The British favored some groups over others, creating resentments that would fuel future conflicts and complicate the nation-building process for decades to come. World War II was the ultimate catalyst for change. The Japanese invasion drove the British out, but the Burmese people soon realized this was merely a change of occupiers. Aung San, now a seasoned military and political leader, shifted his army's allegiance to the Allies, proving his tactical brilliance and unwavering commitment to his people's freedom. After the war, Aung San emerged as the undisputed leader of the independence movement. He successfully negotiated the Panglong Agreement in 1947, a historic pact that brought together leaders from various ethnic groups, including the Shan, Kachin, and Chin, to form a unified Burma. This agreement, born of hope and cooperation, promised a peaceful and unified future for the new nation. However, Aung San's victory was tragically cut short. On July 19, 1947, he and most of his cabinet were assassinated during a meeting. This single act of violence shattered the dreams of a unified nation led by its greatest hero. His death created a power vacuum and left the fragile Panglong Agreement in jeopardy. The nation had lost its father of independence at its most crucial moment. In the wake of the tragedy, U Nu, one of Aung San's closest allies, stepped up to lead the nation. On January 4, 1948, the Union of Burma was granted full independence. Celebrations swept the country, but the optimism was short-lived. The Panglong Agreement, now without its primary architect, was difficult to implement. Tensions between the central government and ethnic minorities erupted into armed insurrections. The dream of a unified democratic nation was quickly fading. In 1962, General Ne Win staged a military coup, establishing a one-party socialist state. He ushered in the Burmese way to socialism, an era of isolationism and state-controlled enterprise. The military, known as the Tatmadaw, became the most powerful institution in the country, controlling politics and the economy with an iron fist. During this time, the country was officially renamed Myanmar, a deliberate move to shed its colonial past and assert a new national identity. But this identity came at the cost of freedom and democracy. Despite decades of dictatorship, the spirit of the Burmese people could not be broken. The 8888 uprising in 1988 marked a pivotal moment. Thousands of students, monks, and citizens took to the streets of Yangon and other cities to demand democracy. The brutal crackdown that followed failed to extinguish the flame of dissent. From this movement emerged Aung San Suu Kyi, the daughter of Aung San. Her unwavering resolve and charismatic leadership made her the face of the pro-democracy movement. She spent years under house arrest, but her voice for freedom only grew louder, becoming a symbol of hope and a living embodiment of her father's legacy. Her party, the National League for Democracy, NLD, won a landslide election in 1990, but the military regime refused to relinquish power. The world watched in awe as one woman fought an entire army, a struggle that would span decades. In 2011, a new glimmer of hope appeared with the start of a gradual transition to a civilian government, and Aung San Suu Kyi was finally freed. The NLD's overwhelming victory in the 2015 elections felt like the culmination of a long, arduous journey. The history of Myanmar is a powerful narrative of hope and despair, of unification and fragmentation. The transition to a civilian government and the release of Aung San Suu Kyi brought a new sense of optimism. However, the 2021 military coup, which overthrew the democratically elected NLD government, proved that the struggle for freedom is far from over. The Irrawaddy River, the silent witness to the rise and fall of empires, continues to flow. It carries the stories of the Konbaung kings, the nationalist monks, the soldiers, and the millions of citizens who yearn for peace. Myanmar's journey, from a land of fragmented kingdoms to a unified empire, a colonized nation, and finally, a troubled republic, is a testament to the resilience of its people. The struggle for identity, freedom, and unity is a constant theme in Myanmar's history, and the journey is far from complete. The 2021 coup and the echo of the past. The military coup of February 1, 2021 was not an isolated event. It was a terrifying echo of a past the nation of Myanmar had been struggling to overcome. After a decade of political opening and democratic transition, the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's armed forces, returned to power, overthrowing the elected government of the National League for Democracy, NLD, and detaining its leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. Myanmar's history, as we have seen, is a long struggle between the will of the people and the might of authoritarian regimes. First, the fight was against a foreign empire, the British. Later, the battle was against internal oppression, symbolized by the iron-fisted rule of Ne Win. The 2021 coup is a new iteration of this cyclical conflict. It tragically mirrors the assassination of Aung San in 1947, which robbed the nation of its leader at a crucial moment. The imprisonment of his daughter, Aung San Suu Kyi, repeated this pattern of silencing the voice of the people. The popular reaction to the 2021 coup was one of the most remarkable in Myanmar's recent history. Millions of citizens of all ages and ethnicities took to the streets in a movement called the Spring Revolution. This civil disobedience movement, which quickly spread across the country, wasn't just a protest. It was a total refusal to accept military authority. People used non-violent tactics, such as a general strike, banging pots and pans, a traditional ritual to drive away evil spirits but used here to protest the dictatorship, and the three-finger salute, a symbol of resistance from films like The Hunger Games. These demonstrations brought to light the deep solidarity among Myanmar's diverse ethnic groups. The Panglong Agreement of 1947, envisioned by Aung San to unite the nation, had largely failed due to mutual distrust and the divide-and-rule policies of both the British and subsequent military regimes. However, the 2021 coup acted as an unlikely catalyst for unity. Ethnic minorities, who had long fought for autonomy, joined the Burma majority in a common struggle against a shared enemy, the Tatmadaw. This new alliance formed the National Unity Government, NOG, a government in the shadows that seeks a democratic federation and the end of military rule. The analogies with the past are clear. The desperation and resilience seen on the streets of Yangon and Mandalay are similar to the determination of the students who led the 8888 uprising against Ne Win. The Tatmadaw's brutal crackdown, with the arrest and killing of thousands of civilians, evokes the violence used by the British to suppress Burmese resistance in the 19th century. Yet, the determination of the people of Myanmar in 2021 seems stronger than ever. The younger generation, who tasted a decade of freedom, is unwilling to return to the darkness. Myanmar's struggle is a somber and hopeful reminder that the path to freedom is rarely a straight line. The 2021 coup is not the end of the story, but a new and tragic chapter. It reinforces the idea that a nation's journey, like that of a river, is marked by diversions and obstacles, but the underlying current of the desire for freedom continues to flow. The future of Myanmar, therefore, will not be written in military barracks, but on the streets, in the valleys, and in the mountains, where a resilient people continue to fight for their dignity and self-determination.
Subscribe to the Vault of Chronicles channel. Stories you've never heard, every day here.